which is our scheduled time to start this session. We have just spoken to a friend from Hong Kong and Singapore about 2 hours ago. A session that quite interesting to understand the situation on the ground, because in Hong Kong, just to recap our discussion a moment ago, for such a city that is highly populated and is so dense, the confirmed cases is only 1,000 over cases, and the number of deaths remain at 4 today. So I think this is something quite remarkable. So I asked our friend who spoke to us just now, and she said that that is largely due to a culture of wearing a mask. I think a lot of people from Hong Kong have gone through SARS, I think that generation, they remember this for life. So they have used the mask. Even the children are encouraged to use a mask. So they have been wearing this for a long time. It has become the culture. I think that I think explains why they are able to contain this disease at this moment. And by and large, there's no forced close down or lockdown order from the government. So I think the people are still able to move around. It depends on the businesses whether they want to open for business or not. But obviously, if your staff or your customers happen to have a COVID-19 confirmed case, then you really have to shut the business. Other than that, things are still moving as usual. So this is something quite remarkable. We also spoke earlier the day before with Japan. I'm just recapping some discussion that we had earlier. In the meantime, waiting for more people to join us. Those who just joined us, welcome, and happy to see you again in this CALCC COVID-19 law series. Those who just joined us, help us to share out as to many groups and fan page or profiles that you have. As I was saying, we spoke to our friend from Japan, and we were told that the situation in Japan is a state of emergency. However, there is no force. The government did not force them to close down businesses. It's a request. It's a request of government for people to comply. And due to the culture, I think law-abiding culture of theirs, and people abide. So I was amazed that the word is request to comply and to stay home. It's a stark contrast.
Yeah. It's a typical Japanese politeness.
Yeah. So I think this is the reason why we have this series of COVID-19 law discussions. But of course, discussion here is not limited to only law. We also understand the situation on the ground by speaking with our friends around the world. So far, I think this is I think the 15 or 16 episode that we are live, and we started this idea of chit-chatting with our friends, having a casual conversations with our friends to say hello and to say how are you doing. However, I think it evolves to this because I think the conversation can be brought to the next level to share, this kind of information, this kind of experiences with our viewers on Facebook. And I'm very, very honored that the speakers have actually agreed with our invitation to be able to share here. All right, so today we're very happy to see our friend Kenneth. Kenneth is on the left top. Hi, Kenneth, say hi to the viewers.
Hi everyone.
Hi, Kenneth. I think Kenneth has appeared in a few of our earlier shows, so definitely someone that we are really familiar. And I would like to say hello to Kiley Tan from the United Kingdom. Hi, Kiley.
Hi, Dr. Tay. Hi, Kenneth. And
Hi,
thank you
hi,
very
hi.
much for allowing me to grace my
I
myself
see.
on this channel. Thank you.
No, thank you for accepting the invitation to share. So I think we'll learn a lot from this session. So I think first of all, I would like to hear from Kenneth to perhaps a self-introduction. Say hello to the viewers who are watching us live right now.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good morning if you are in UK. Uh, I'm one of the members of CALCC. So we've been with CLCC for a few years. Um, it is actually this organization is actually made up of a bunch of lawyers who, besides enjoying their work in the legal fraternity, they also enjoy talking to each other and congregating and sharing views and all that. And also through the nature of the work of CALCC, we have made a lot of friends from all over the world for after so many years being together. Um, so as Dr. Tay mentioned earlier, we started with just a few friends chit-chatting with each other, and then it expanded to so many different countries with so many friends sharing views with us. So today it is indeed a very interesting, another interesting session we're going to have, because we have Kiley Tan from the UK. If you're wondering why you are not seeing a Koilo, it is because it is because Kiley has been a good friend for many years. He is actually a Malaysian, all right. So he has been in the UK for many years. So the way we want to take this is we will ask a few standard questions. You know, the moderator, Dr. Tay, will ask a few standard questions to Kiley, and then he will also share with us something very interesting, which I think Malaysians may not be so used to at this moment. A lot of us are actually faced with this new norm, which is working from home. Now, Kiley has been doing that for umpteen years. So he has been working remotely. You know, he works at a bar, he works in a cafe, he works from his house, he works from anywhere but a proper office. So, so with that, I would leave the self introduction to Kiley. All right, Kiley, would you like to take it from here?
Yes, thank you, Kenneth. That's a glowing report. Thank you. So just a bit about myself. I'm originally from Malaysia. I grew up in Penang, and from there I came over here to the UK to study my law, and was called to the bar at Lincoln's Inn in London. When I returned, I trained at a firm called Lim Kian Siu and Co. in Penang. And after finishing my 9 months there, I then went to work for Shen Dalamo in Penang. And I spent my all of my legal career in Malaysia at Shen Dalamo, which is about 2.5 years or so. And then so around 2002 thereabouts, I moved over here to the UK. I married my wife, who's British, and we decided to settle over here. And since then, I've been working here in the UK. I've worked in a variety of different firms in England, the really small firms to the sort of medium-sized firms. And I was, I worked in smaller cities like Lincoln, as well as Sheffield, where I currently live, and also in Leeds. But what I have done in recent years is, since I was made a partner of a Sheffield firm in 2012 thereabouts, and I served there for 3 years, going up to the level of head of a corporate commercial department. And then I decided that I needed a change from the rat race that is working in a law firm and chasing partnership, chasing equity, and all that sort of stuff. And I decided that I would leave that career path to someone else, and I would take a slightly different path. And my path was really to go into something else, which is practicing law from a different way, from a different perspective. And that's when I joined a firm called The Legal Director. We are a legal firm. We are fully regulated and all that sort of stuff that you would expect of a legal firm. But we don't have a physical office. We have an address, but if you go there, it's a service office. And all our lawyers are consultants. We are not employed, and we do as much or as little work as we choose to do. Whatever we feel like doing, essentially. So you're no longer told what to do by the firm, the managing partner, whoever it is. You choose and pick whatever work you want to do. And I've been doing that since 2015. So this is my 5th year doing this. And I'm enjoying it, and it gives me also time to do other things. I have my own consultancy business as well on the side called Mosaic International, and that's to look at potential investments or potential export-import between the Southeast Asian region and the UK. So yeah, that's me.
Interesting. So one important question. So are you at home now with the photocopy machine behind you?
Yes, I am at home now, and this is the most presentable part of my home office. Yes, so I have a printer, and that's, if I need to print anything, some things you still need to print out. So I have that printer available to do that. So hopefully my children who are at home use the printer to print up their homework as well. So if the printer starts moving, it's because the children are printing something.
I see. Well, it's very interesting to hear that a Malaysian have taken the step to actually move to the UK. With a family, started a family, and also to work. So when we say the work from home, I think we are speaking to the right person who has been doing for the past at least 5 years. So interesting to hear a story. Then I mean, for myself, I also graduated from the Lincoln's Inn, and I also used to work for Shen for about 2 years. Shen KL, and I left and joined the current company. So I think, all right. So please run us through how's the situation. I understand that you are based in Sheffield. So how's the condition? How's the situation like in Sheffield currently?
Okay, just like the whole of the country, we're currently having a lockdown, or what is known as a lockdown, although it's not termed as that. And the key words here is social distancing. You have to keep 2 meters apart from another person from a different household from you. So that's what we're doing currently across the country. So most office workers have either been placed on furlough, what we call furlough, or they've been asked to work from home. Those who cannot do that and are essential workers, and there's a list of essential workers, they can still go to work. So essential workers are people like nurses, doctors, people you expect to work in a hospital, but also people whom you wouldn't expect. For example, bin men, people who come and collect your bin.
Very important.
That's important.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So they're classed as essential workers. So these essential workers are still allowed to go to work. And when they go to work, the question is, well, what do you do with their children? They have young children who go to school, and schools are closed. So what the government has done is they've allowed schools to open, but primarily to keep children of essential workers in school. And so this is the balancing act that the UK government is currently doing. So schools, although officially closed, are open for children of essential workers. So some teachers still have to go to school to teach sort of shortened versions of lessons for children of essential workers, whilst essential workers still go to work. Those people who can will stay at home and will work from home. Those people who can't will be furloughed. And that's how it's currently working out in the UK.
I see. I see. That's very interesting because in Malaysia, I think you have also heard it. We are under the movement control order since the 18th of March, and the government announced on the 1st of May. Last week, that most of the sectors are able to operate starting yesterday, the 4th of May. So there's a joke say, may the fourth be with you. Wear the mask and also make sure that the lightsaber 1 meter or 2 meter lightsaber distance. So that's a social distancing. Now, one of the key problem I think for a lot of companies opening now is that for the workers who come to the office, they do not now know how to handle their kids because the schools are closed. So I think in these regards, I think the government of the UK has done something that we should learn from, because they keep the school open partially just to address the issue of the essential workers. Now, bringing back to the discussion about the situation in UK and in specific in Sheffield, how do you see the impacts of the businesses due to this COVID-19 pandemic?
Oh, where do we stop? It's where do we even start? It's huge. It's big problems, and the impact will be huge across every single industry. No industry will be unaffected by this. So if you look at the leisure, hospitality industry, they are going to be severely hit by this, because we expect social distancing to continue in some way or form for the next maybe 12 months or so. So for instance, if you had 100 tables in your restaurant, you can only use 50 of those, or even less.
Yeah.
And therefore, your overheads remain the same, your rent remains the same, but the number of people that you can put in your restaurants are less. It doesn't take a genius to work out. It's going to be, people have to push up their prices, and because people push up their prices, there'll be less people there, and it's a vicious cycle that leads to a downward spiral. Also, apart from supermarkets that are doing pretty well, obviously, because they're selling food and essential items. Most other sectors will be hit as well. The legal sector is also going to be hit, because there is less transactional work in terms of buying and selling of businesses. There's also less property transactional work. People might hold back now in terms of selling or buying a house. And also from the commercial side, do commercial operators or businesses want to take new leases in new commercial property? So I've heard from a partner of a Sheffield firm who said that there is likely going to be redundancies moving forward, although it's not been done yet.
I see. The arrangement of the legal firms in the UK, or specifically in Sheffield, is it like a chamber style that where you pay your own salary, or is it like the firms in Malaysia where the company will have to maintain the salary of the entire workforce, or is it commission based? How's the situation like there?
In terms of the setup, the general setup, we have a split profession. So there's solicitors and there are barristers. Barristers technically just go to court, and they're like the specialists. Barristers are now still operating under the chamber system, where they are all self-employed, they're all independent, and they pay their chambers a certain amount of their earnings. They are badly affected because a lot of chamber work now is stopped, because solicitors feed them the work, and if solicitors are not getting the work, they're not getting their fees. And these are potentially people who might fall through a gap, because a lot of the funding that's available from government does not apply to self-employed people, and barristers are self-employed people, by and large. With barristers, with solicitors, we still operate on an employer-employee relationship, like firms in Malaysia. But there are also different kinds of setups now. Like, for example, my firm, the legal director, there is no employer-employee relationship. It is actually very much a chamber style setup. And so solicitors tend to be more able to be a bit more innovative in the way they operate, whereas barristers are still caught up by the old system.
I see. Now, for companies that underemployment during this time where the businesses are affected, revenue has dropped, no business coming in, or they are closed. In this situation, what's the legal position in the UK? Whether the employers, do they have to pay the salary despite that? Let's say they close the business for a certain number of days. But is the application to pay salary continue?
Yeah, good question. Because what the government realized is that if they wanted people to stay at home and not go to work, there has to be an incentive for people to do that.
Yeah.
Because what's the point of just staying at home and you're not going to get paid? So and also the government saw it from the point of view of businesses. If my employees are staying at home, why am I paying them? So they the balance that they struck was this: if you are an employee and you cannot work because you're being what we call furloughing, what will happen is that those who are staying at home and furloughed, the government will pay at least 80% of their wages, up to a maximum of £2,500 a month per person, per employee. Okay. And what that means also is that the company now has a safety net. They know that if they pay the wage, 80% of that will come back, although the person is not working. And this has been really, really helpful. A lot of employees are being furloughed at the moment. So they're staying at home. They're getting their wages paid. Some of them up to 100% because the employer tops up to give them the extra 20%. So at least all of them will at least be getting 80% of their wages currently, up to £2,500 a month. And at least they can then pay their overheads, like their mortgage payments or any payments in relation to car and living expenses. The business also gets the money back because they're paying it out, now they're getting the money back. There were questions raised about how this whole scheme would work when it was first announced. And I'm pleased to say that it has worked really, really well, because the first time the scheme paid out was just end of April. So in the last week of April, the website portal was open, and employers basically just went in and typed in the details of their employees, the amount that they want claimed back from the government, and within 5 to 6 working days, the amount was paid directly back into the employer. And in terms of the statistics, I've got some statistics because they've just announced it. It cost the UK government £8 billion just for 1 month's support in April. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
That's a lot of money, because it's 80% of the wages.
Yes.
Now, are the employees under the obligation to top up, or it's just optional?
It's optional. It's up to the employer as to whether or not they wish to top up or not, because essentially they're furloughing them and saying, you don't come to work, and I'm paying you for not coming to work. So yeah, it has worked so far. In terms of redundancies, there has obviously been very few redundancies. There are still companies that are folding, that are going into administration and things like that. With those, then they have to make their employees redundant. But most companies are continuing to pay because they know that they get 80% of the wages back from the government.
I see. And to be able to enjoy this under this scheme, this furlough scheme, is there a terms and condition that if you take this and the employer is not supposed to terminate them or retrench them within a certain number of months?
No,
Is
no,
what?
but the if you're getting 80%, it's a bit it's counterintuitive. You're getting paid 80%, you're not going to get rid of your staff, because getting rid of your staff means if you need them back, you have to retrain, or they may have found
Mm-hmm.
another job and you have to train new staff. So I think
Mm-hmm.
most of the employers who can are taking a wait and see approach. Let's wait and see what happens after the lockdown is lifted, and then I think that's when you will find most businesses will make decisions on redundancies.
I see. I see. All right. All right. Because I think the situation is slightly different from that that we are going through in Malaysia. The companies can also apply for this. We call it the wage subsidy program, up to 1,200 ringgit per employee per month. However, it does come with a term and condition that the company cannot terminate the particular staff service within 3 months,
Mm,
plus another 3 months, so 6 months from the wage subsidy. So that also give a lot of concern to some employers. So I've heard some employers rather not apply for this wage subsidy because of this term and condition. And the 1,200. I think it's relatively lower compared to the 80% of
mm,
the wage
mm,
that we are seeing now. All right.
mm,
So the next issue I'd like to ask Kylie is about rent. Whether during this period, how's the rental market like, and do you see that people are arguing about rental, and is this a force majeure the situation that renters, people, do not have to pay rental, or do they have the right to defer the rent payment? What's the situation like?
mm. Um, excuse me. Rental. There's two issues, two distinct issues here with rental.
Yeah.
First is residential and commercial, and they're very, very different. Excuse me. So with regard to residential, what the government did was they basically extended a period of time for possession proceedings to take place. So it
Mm-hmm.
used to be you could, if someone didn't pay rent within a certain number of time, you would give a certain notice, and usually that's about 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
They've extended that to 3 months.
Right.
So
Okay.
so it gives, so they're not saying paying you there's a deferment of rent, but they're saying that the amount of time that someone can take possession back from for the property is delayed, so that the person continues to stay in the house. And there's a social impact on this, because if the person is evicted, the local council has a duty to rehouse them if they don't have a home to go to. So they've kept that going, and as a result, no one is actually taking possession because you have to wait 3 months anyway.
Anyway, yeah.
From a commercial standpoint, with commercial property, England and Wales still have a system of self-help. So if you don't pay your rent, the landlord can actually just appoint a bailiff, and the bailiff and the landlord can just go there and re-enter the property and take repossession. No court proceedings are required. So with that, what they've done is they've extended the time in which forfeiture is allowed to take place. So again, they've extended it by 3 months. Now, in practical terms, that would not have made any difference anyway, because a landlord now, a commercial landlord now, is not going to go in and take possession of a property, because he cannot lease it out anyway. There is no market for it.
Yeah.
No one is taking up property. So he wants the tenant in there so that he can pursue them for rent arrears later on. So in practical terms, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any difference anymore. Yeah.
Yes, I think that's the right way of looking at it, because evicting them, taking possession now, it only means that your property is going to be empty for the next 3 or even 6 months. So
Yeah.
that will be some big problem to the landlords as well.
Yeah.
So now with all this COVID-19 pandemic situation coming in, what's your view about the future of the legal profession? I know, I'm quite interested to hear from you, about this working from home. I think you are someone that is practicing it. But by and large, do you see that what are the challenges of the legal industry currently?
Okay. I think the future of work, not just the legal industry, but the future of work is going to
Mm,
be very much mobile, very much remote working, and people will be forced to do that whether they like it or not. So that is a view that is shared not just in the legal profession, but everyone who is doing business who's not in the hospitality business where you don't have to see someone face to face. So office work is going to change dramatically for a lot of people, and I think that's a given. The good news is that in England at least, and Wales, and I think also in Scotland and Northern Ireland, lawyers are very used to working remotely. They may not work 100% of the time from home or remotely, but they sometimes do have the right to do so, like an off day where they work from home, or something like that, a week, or maybe a week, a month to do that. So that has already been implemented, and it's due to the IT infrastructure that's put in place by most firms. Most firms have recognized that putting people into offices is very expensive, especially in central London.
mm,
It's a very, very expensive business. So some firms have actually told, especially in central London, have told their staff, look, we're going to hot desk, and you have to book to come in to use that desk, but most of the time work from home. And that was already happening even before COVID happened. So the use of the office is going to change. It's going to change to a collaborative hub, if you like, something like that. And I think most people will tend to work from home and speak to people using, video conference like we are now.
mm, mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely that would be the trend at this moment. When we are locked down, I think this is the way. There are a few questions from the audience. Maybe I will just try to read it out. I'm not sure whether are you able to see from the screen. Um,
Yes.
okay, there's a question from Patrick Lai. Um, if I sign a short hold tenancy in Wales for 1 year due to move in 7 July, however, if I cannot move in due to COVID-19, can I legally terminate it and get my 1 month deposit paid to the managing agent?
Okay.
Would you want to take this question? Yeah,
Well, first of all,
yeah.
he should speak to his landlord,
Okay.
and make the landlord aware that this is the situation that he's in, and to have a conversation with the landlord about how to deal with this sort of scenario. In the current scenario, it's pointless talking about legal rights, because
Mm,
legal rights really are sort of secondary to these issues. And if both Patrick and his landlord can come to some kind of arrangement, that would be better than trying to enforce legal rights. The fact is that at the end of a short tenancy, the tenancy can still continue. That doesn't necessarily mean that he has to leave. It can continue, and it goes into what is known as a periodic tenancy. So he should have that protection anyway, even after it comes to an end. But if he wants to terminate and he can find another location to live, then by all means he can do that. I don't see why not.
I see. All right, all right. There's also another question. if you could see from the screen, just to ask whether what's your opinion on this? As Rishi Sunak takes a center stage, what are his plans for the recovery of the economy? So this
Oh
question came.
gosh.
This question came from Rajan Paul. Rajan has been following the CALCC talk quite closely. I mean, just an opinion.
Okay, well, I'm not an economist, and for those of you who don't know, Rishi Sunak is the Chancellor. He's the Finance Minister, essentially, of the UK. I think he has done a pretty good job, and I think moving forward, there is going to be a lot more. The government has to support business a lot more. There will be a lot more financial support for businesses, financial supports for people as well who are going to buy houses, because there is a worry that the housing market will crash, because there will be a lot of houses that will go on sale post-COVID, because not to be grim about it, but a lot of people have lost their lives. And a lot of these people are mainly elderly. Some of them live on their own, so their state will want to put these houses on sale. So there'll be more supply into the economy, and people might not want to buy because they might wait. And so there has to be a way in which government needs to come in and support. In terms of the economy at large, I think what they need to do is find a vaccine as quickly as possible and give very clear guidance on what to do in the meantime. I have no further views on this, actually.
That's right.
Difficult.
Yeah, because this one is it's a difficult one and not necessarily a legal question. Now, that's a question from Richard Tay. He asked, he stated that 1,000 of high street and sole practitioner firms may shut down within 6 months as a result of a COVID-19 crisis. Alarming new research by the Law Societies suggests the shock to the legal services sector has been sudden and severe, commented the Law Society President Simon Davis. So what is the way out for firm in the UK to stay alive? Now, what's the view on this?
I used to work in some of these small firms that will undoubtedly have issues right now. A lot of the reasons for this is because a lot of these small firms are reliant upon conveyancing, residential conveyancing, as their bread and butter work. And I suspect that conveyancing will drop significantly, which means a significant chunk of their income will drop as well. The long and short of it is that if the firm is purely reliant upon conveyancing, I don't see a way out for them, because conveyancing market may not come back in as quickly as they would like. So do you hold the line and continue? You may make staff redundant in the meantime and continue to survive until the curve goes up again. And who knows when the curve will go up again in terms of the economy. Or do you, in my view, consolidate? And I think, personally, I think there will be consolidation. And this will be sort of the medium-sized firms buying up smaller practices. There will be consolidation amongst the smaller firms as well, the sole practitioners. They probably need to take a view to consolidate their work with other sole practitioners as well. And I believe that is the only way to survive in the high street at the moment, because, you know, high street law firms who are in the high street basically thrive on people walking past their window and going, oh yeah, I might want to do a will, or I'm looking at a divorce, I need some help, you know. But if people are not walking on the high street, they're not going to get work.
Yeah, I think that will be the main problem, because no one's walking on the high street. So perhaps the high street that we are looking at has to be shifted to online.
Yes.
So your digital, perhaps the digital presence has to be more effective, I think, moving forward, rather than the physical high street type of setup, right? So interesting questions coming in. I think Rajam Paul, who asked you the question just now, I think he said thank you. Thank you so much for your answer. He asked a difficult question, but Rajam has been a very a loyal viewer of ours, and he has been watching most of our, I think, if not the more, most or all of our sessions. Now, I think there's another question from him. How do you witness documents? This is a question. How do you witness documents from Rajam? I suppose, I think the question is, if you're doing social distancing and you are not meeting people, are you able to witness a signature through video conferencing? So what's your view?
There's actually some guidance from the Law Society in relation to this.
Oh, right.
You might want
Okay.
to look at that. And I know from speaking to someone I know in relation to wills, which have to be witnessed.
Yeah.
and how they've done it is they would go to the house of the testator. They would put the will through the postbox, the test, and view them from outside the house. So see them take it in, sign it, and then post it back out to them on the outside. They will then take it and say that they've witnessed it. And that's how it's being done currently, and that's perfectly fine and acceptable. I think that is a practical issue. If you are obviously far away, if let's say I'm in Sheffield and I want to witness a client's signature in London, even in the best of times, I wouldn't be able to do it. I would ask him to go and see, a family member to do it. Also, the other thing as well is that if it's for general document, and you can have family members witnessing, you're still allowed to do that because households are still allowed to gather anyway. So someone in the household can witness.
Okay, so that answers Rajam's question. So let's see, is there any other questions before we move on? I think so far, I think we have, he did ask as well, 80% paid directly to the employers. I think this referring to the scheme that you mentioned,
Yes.
it's paid to the employers, right?
Yes, it's straight to the employer.
Yeah. Okay, so I think we have addressed, I think, most of the issue. I like this because it's quite interactive. It may catch the speaker by surprise, but yes,
definitely.
But this is the fun part. This is the fun part, right? So interesting. I think you have any questions about, we may not be able to answer all the questions, but I think the speakers will give their views. What do they think about it? Because I think the question sometimes we go outside the scope of what we know. Yeah, moving on to another important issue I would like to ask Kiley is about the Coronavirus Act that has been enacted in the UK. I think it is a very comprehensive and I think a lot of pages compared to a lot of other jurisdiction, which is much shorter. But I think the UK, the United Kingdom version of Coronavirus Act 2020 is I think it's a very comprehensive one. So could you just explain to us how does this, what's the implication of this act?
Okay, the Coronavirus Act was to give the government the powers that it has now to enact the social distancing rules, etc. Unlike other countries, there is no single empowering act to give the government of the day the right to shut down the economy. So they had to basically go around looking for those provisions in various acts. And as the UK hasn't got a written constitution, everything is within the acts. So what they did was they basically went around and found the provisions that empowered governments and ministers to carry out the stuff that they wanted to do. There were also acts in the Coronavirus Acts in relation to amending other acts, because the powers would have to amend them as well. So in the schedules, there's a whole list of amendments and whatnot in relation to other acts. So I actually, strangely, I thought you might ask. So I've actually got it on my screen because it's too much for me to remember. But a lot of the stuff in there in relation to, I mean, the first bits were practically to deal with the emergency. So they needed extra doctors, they needed extra nurses. So how do you bring these retired people back into the service? So they had enacted an act to do that. There was also volunteers and things like that, which they required. There were also some practical things about how to deal with issues around reporting of death. Because if they're going to have social distancing, you cannot personally go and report a death. So there are provisions in there where you can report a death by phone without attending. So there are practical things in there which we might think is rather strange, but it is actually very practical requirements that are required in this strange times. There are also things such as, because we have devolved governments, Wales have its own government, Scotland has its own government, so there were certain provisions as well that empowered them to take action within the context of what they are allowed to do. So it is comprehensive. It is, I mean, it is a very, very long act, as you rightly pointed out. It was also very hastily put together. So don't be surprised if there are issues with it. There will be. I'm sure that someone in there will point out somewhere that there is an issue with the Coronavirus Act, and I won't be surprised. But that's the way.
But at least I think there's an act of parliament. In Malaysia, we are talking about it, and our upcoming parliament sitting, there's only one day. I think there are news reports saying that they're going to put forward for reading, hopefully, but we do not know how extensive it is and what is the focus area, because if you run through the UK Coronavirus Act, it's very comprehensive and is very wide. But the Malaysian one, I personally have not seen any draft of the bill, or so we do not know which focus area. But I think few of the things that we are talking about is about the contractual obligations. So does it when party breaches the contractual obligations in after they sign a contract under such circumstances, when during the MCO, so are they liable for the delay or the breaches? So that's one thing. And I think there are a few other focus areas that we are talking about. The rent, for example, the UK, you say, they delay the period for 3 months. So basically to give a breather, a space for the tenant to actually at least not get evicted. But as I do agree with you as well. Even without this, people will not actually easily and hastily evict the tenant for non-payment, because it's kind of impossible to get a tenant at this moment, right? So I think good to hear that there's an act, but of course you say that it's put up in such a short time. Same thing with the act that we see in Singapore. I think they put it up within a matter of 9 or 10 days. So it's the same thing, very quick, and put it up, and then they pass it as an act of parliament, right? So I'd like to ask Kenneth, is there any questions you'd like to ask or share with Kiley?
Yeah, I think we are very lucky to have Kiley here today, because apart from being well versed in whatever legal issues that is being discussed earlier, one of the key thing about Kiley is he has practiced working remotely, either from a bar, from a cafe, from his house, from the bus stop, for many years. So I think I think we know where I'm heading here, because I would like for Kiley to share with our friends, everyone who's been following here, the issues that he has when he first go into practice without having a proper office and having to start something from scratch. And then how he has been holding on for so many years doing this, and how has that affected him, his personal life and his professional life, in terms of the amount of time that he has. Maybe he has more time to watch more Premier League matches or whatever. So I think that is one area where our viewers would like to know as well.
Yeah.
Ali?
Okay, well, okay. So you didn't ask one question. You asked a series of questions.
It's a COVID-19 series talk.
Yes.
Okay, right. So full disclosure, I have experience in working remotely since around 2005. That was the first time I actually discovered the joys of remote working from a firm in Lincoln. For me to travel in, it was 40 miles a day and 40 miles back. So what they said to me was that, because I was a partner there as well, so they said to me, look, we'll let you have remote working, and you can use that, but use it sparingly, use it within reason. So, and so the certain days, if you drive in and it's a jam, I turn around and I come back home and I log in remotely into work. The key thing I found about working remotely is discipline. You have to be very, very disciplined about working remotely. You might have everything that you need at your fingertips on your laptop and everything else. But if you have no discipline, you will just shun working and just do whatever you want to do, which may include watching Netflix or whatever else that you do. And I find that for me, something that I actually learned from my wife, because my wife started home working before me, was that every morning she got out of bed and she got dressed for work. Okay. And this is the thing I do as well. I get dressed for work. Now I don't obviously dress like this all the time, but changing your attire from your pajamas or what you wear for sleep changes your mindset, and it gets you ready for work. And then be clear when you work and when you can take breaks, so that you're not constantly being distracted, because obviously at home you're obviously always going to be distracted. There's going to be something that's happening in the house that you need to look at because it's urgent. That IKEA piece of furniture that needs to be put up, or whatever it is. You need to just say to yourself, look, I will do that and I will do that later. But right now I need to focus on work. The beauty I found about that is that once you get used to doing this, you'll find that you actually have more time for work rather than less time for work. So in an ordinary day, I start work around 8-ish, 8 o'clock, 8:30, okay? And I find that I've now learned that I'm actually more productive in the morning than I am in the afternoon. So in the morning, what I do is I catch up with emails, I do my drafting work, that's when I'm most productive and my mind is fresh. And then, I take breaks, I have lunch, and then in the afternoon, I will work again. But that depends on whether or not there is things for me to do. If there are not so much things to do, I can sort of take it easy in the afternoon. I can spend a bit of time with the children and things like that. So it is a great way for you to plan your day ahead, and suddenly you have time and space to breathe, to actually look at what it is that you're doing and realize, hey, you know what? I may want to try this slightly different thing, a different way of doing this. And you can be innovative and artistic about what you're doing. When you work in an office, I find, when I was working in the office, I found that most of my time was dealing with problems, not mine, but my staff's problems. And that was the problem that I had. I didn't have time to do work. All I had was time to deal with other people's problems. Not that I didn't like dealing with other people's problems. The reality was that I also had a responsibility to do work, and my own work, which I needed to complete to satisfy my clients. And so that is the benefit of working from home. You remove all that, and you can focus on just doing the job and doing it well. Yeah, I mean, there's other things as well. Like taking breaks, and another thing I like doing. Pick a place that you're going to work, and that's your place of work. Okay, So when you go there and you sit down, you're working.
Mm.
When you leave it, you're not working. You know, psychologically, it makes a difference. It really makes a difference.
Yeah, I can vouch for that, because when you say that you actually spend more time doing actual work rather than dealing with people's problems, that was what I experienced for the past 6 weeks that we've been under our Malaysian version of the lockdown. Because I found myself spending more time doing work at home, and sometimes not even taking breaks in between.
Hmm.
And my day starts as early as 7, right?
Hmm.
And it wouldn't end until 12 or even sometimes 1 a.m. In the morning, because in the daytime I deal with the various companies' issues and problems and all that. But at the night time is when my boss like to call me because my boss operates in a different time zone. He's a Malaysian. He stays in Malaysia, but he wakes up late, and then he likes to work through the night. So he will call me at 12 a.m. Through the midnight, and then he will ask questions. I have to report certain things to him and all that. So the fact that we spend more time working from home, it's not really a bad thing. It's not really a bad thing. The bad thing is not being able to control the time that we need for our own rest. Like I think you have been very disciplined. You take your breaks, you take your lunch breaks and all that. I hardly have the leisure at home. So sometimes, like yesterday, I went back to the office because we were allowed to go back to the office from yesterday, 4th of May onwards. So when I go back to the office yesterday, it's a total change, because yesterday I didn't do work because I met a few colleagues, and then we had a few meetings. Of course, we distance ourselves apart from each other. But yeah, we deal with people's problems in the office more than doing real work, actually. So yeah, that is one thing. I think some of our Malaysian lawyers and Malaysian colleagues are feeling the same thing. Another thing I wish to find out is there any issues that you face, dealing with people? You see, because lawyering work requires a lot of meetings and face-to-face discussions and all that. Do you find yourself going into the online meeting or online video conferencing more than you do with your clients face-to-face, in terms of face-to-face interaction?
Not really. I mean, what I've done in the last 5 years is I've worked with a variety of clients based geographically in a very different locations. And so a face-to-face meeting may not be possible even if both parties wanted to meet up face-to-face. It's just too long and it's too far away. And just not going to happen. So what you do is you manage that by video conferencing is one of the ways. Phone calls, just a normal phone call usually does the trick. A lot of my work, well, almost all of my work is done on email. And in my other business, in Mosaic, we use something called Slack as well to communicate with each other.
Yeah.
So we're in constant touch in a sense, although we might not physically see each other. Yes, okay, physically seeing each other is important. And what we've done in the legal director, in my firm that I'm currently working in, is that we have quarterly meetings. And usually it's the whole team gathering together, usually in London, or usually in Birmingham or Manchester, one of these places. So we will gather as a whole team, and there's around, I think, up to 25, nearly 30 of us now. And we gather in one place. We have a team meeting, but we also have a social event after that. So it's usually a dinner followed by drinks and whatnot. So that keeps the relationships fresh and you're able to see one another. But we only do that once every quarter. We don't do it very often. And in the meantime, whilst we don't see each other, we email or we have a WhatsApp group, we keep in touch. and those are the ways to just keep everything fresh and with each other. Yeah, but I just want to address one of the points you were talking about your boss calling you up at late and all that. The culture here is very different in the UK. There is a respect of work time and a respect of private time. Not to say your boss is not respecting that, by the way, but that's the culture here. And so you would not expect your client to ring you up potentially after 6 o'clock. I still get calls between 5 and 6 o'clock, but after 6, you don't usually expect your client to ring you. If they ring you, it is possibly because there is something like a life or death situation. Thankfully, I'm not in criminal law, so I don't get that sort of calls a lot of times. So it's just I don't know, it's just the culture here. They accept that you work between 9 to 5, at a stretch to 6. And they don't bother you outside those hours. Even if they want to call you, they might drop you a text first and say, "Can I ring you to discuss this?" And you are quite entitled to write back and say, "Can we speak about it tomorrow?" And no questions asked.
Yeah, that's interesting, because I think in Malaysia, I'm not saying that a lot of bosses are doing that, But when I joined this company, I was told that, and the boss basically told me that you got to adjust a bit of your time. I have a leeway to, like, usually when I go to the office, I don't usually go to the office at 7. So if I'm working at the office, I'll be in the office around 10, around 11. So I start my day a little bit late, because I know what to anticipate towards the later part of the day. So, and I'm totally fine with that. It's just that the point that I want to raise just now is that the fact that staying at home allows us to actually spend more time on work. And I think that is the part where a lot of us have to get used to from now onwards. Because I think moving forward, in many industries in Malaysia, legal profession for that matter, I think there's a lot of changes that needs to be made into how they conduct their business moving forward, because we all know this virus is going to be here to stay. It's not going to go away in the next 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, or even 2 years. Even after the vaccine is found, it's going to take time, all right, for things to go back to a more satisfactory way. But virus is still going to be around. Our new norm has to kick in from now. So that is something that I think, for the benefit of our audience, they have to think about this. It is not about what we are going through now. I think it's more about how they live with the more like their exit strategy, what they're going to do after the lockdown is being lifted. How they're going to adjust their life, that kind of scenario.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. We have just seen a question that came in from Patrick Lai. He says, "Hi, Kylie. It is easy to work remotely, and will your clients accept the fact that you acted on your own and not part of any bigger, especially advising on legal issues, which may be risky and may incur potential lawsuits?" So I think then I think the question comes as follows: how do you cover yourself adequately with professional indemnity insurance, PII? We call it here as PII. Will the PII premium for you be high as opposed to working with a bigger firm? Thank you.
Okay, so maybe I didn't explain myself clearly. So the legal director is actually a legal firm, and it's properly insured and everything. And I work as a consultant within the legal director, and therefore all the requirements that you would expect of a legal firm, including PII, will be covered by the firm, and that's how it works. So the clients, although engaging me personally, is doing that through the legal director. Just like if someone were to come to any firm like Shen Delamore, for example, they might use Mr. So-and-so, but Mr. So-and-so is a worker within Shen Delamore. So to that extent, that's the same issue. One of the one of the key elements, in fact, if you are thinking about reducing your PII, I don't know in Malaysia it's the same or not, but in the UK, in England at least, one of the key things to reducing your PII is actually not to have a client account, strangely. So as a firm, we actually do not have a client account. Yeah.
But I think for those handling conveyancing practice, that is mandatory to have a client's account.
Yes, I think under the Legal Profession Act in Malaysia, that might be the case.
Yeah, because the client's money, when they pass through the law firms, no way we should actually bank it to our office account and to use it as a part of our expenses. It has to be protected under the client's account. But I think the scenario is quite different in Malaysia compared to a lot of countries, because I think a lot of countries don't hold this client's property transaction money. It doesn't pass through the law firms.
No, in the UK as well. Same here.
Oh, same. All right, right.
Yeah,
But
yeah,
for
yeah.
example, in China, I think it doesn't pass through. It
All
goes
right.
through directly. Yeah. So
Right.
that dispenses off the use of a client's account. But I think under the Malaysian Legal Profession Act, so that is one of the issue. Okay, so I think we have actually exceeded the time, but it has been a very interesting discussion, especially the work from home. I think the key that Kylie has mentioned is discipline. You know, we are sitting, and I personally feel that I find more time working from home, because I could do a con call at this time, then you know, within split seconds, and I can jump into another chat room. Well, in reality, in actual life, you know, we had to drive from this location to another location, plus the parking, plus the finding the directions, and all this add up. We easily spend, you know, a few hours on the road every day. So I think this is something. But on the other hand, you know, the self-discipline is also important. It's very tempting to, you know, from working, then suddenly you look at Netflix, or Facebook for that matter. so all this will come in, but self-discipline, I think is also the key. Dressing up, I think it works for certain people. I mean, I think the putting you in a mindset of you're actually working. So in Malaysia, I think there's an issue earlier where the ministry issue a guideline saying that you should dress up when you're home, but because the circular added some other elements, so it became a problem. I personally feel that, you know, obviously, you know, I'm at home now, but you know, I got dressed up for work purposes. You may not dressed up fully, but you know, at least the upper part, yes.
Yeah, I think it's getting out of your pajamas, because some people work and then they're still in your pajamas, and like, no, I think that's, you know, you just get out of it.
Yeah, makes sense.
So I think it has been a very interesting discussion. So I'd like to invite Kenneth first to do a concluding remarks for the discussion today, and it will follow by Kylie later. Kenneth.
Yeah, thanks, Dr. Tay. I think this has been one of the interesting sessions that I had. I mean, first of all, talking to a good friend all the way from the UK, you know, and the discussion has been very interesting, because not only do we look at some of the general legal matters, but I think the part on the work from home, working remotely, that getting used to it, and the tips that Kelly gave us. I think a lot of us can take note from that and start to move forward with our new norm. I think the most important thing now is for us to think about our exit strategy. What do we need to do moving forward in maintaining the social distancing and all that? Because the thing that I've been seeing in the past few days, it worries me in Malaysia, because I see people going to the supermarket without wearing masks. I see people in a whole family at a supermarket and all that. So I think there's a lot of confusion or maybe misinformation here, you know, but we need to stay safe. I think that is something very, very important. This virus is still around. So before we end, I think I like to thank first Dr. Tay for moderating the session. I like to thank our good friend Kiley Tan
Welcome.
for accepting our invitation to speak. It's been wonderful catching up with you, man. Thank
All
you.
right. So I'd like to invite Kiley to have his concluding remark about today's session.
Thank you again very much for the invite to come and speak. It's always good fun to catch up and to chat. I think you're right that Kenneth is right in pointing out the anxiety and the fear of what's going to happen with the economy. That is shared in the UK as well. For instance, one of the headlines today is that new car sales have dropped 97% in April. So that's a huge drop in car sales, but obviously people are staying at home, that's why. And the reality is that that's just one industry. It's going to be all across the board. Everyone's going to feel the impact of this. How we get out of this is still an unknown. I also share your views in relation to being safe and things like that. The UK government has been a bit slow in relation to giving guidance on the use of face masks. And I think that is for reasons that they're worried that people will start buying it and hoarding it, when in fact what they should be doing is looking at ways of allowing that supply chain to supply the demand that's required in the country. So thank you very much again, and I'm glad to see all of you are well, and may you continue to stay well and stay safe. Thank you.
Likewise.
Okay, so thank you, Kiley. Again, thank you, Kiley. Thanks, Kenneth, and also I'd like to thank Dato Ricky, who is behind the scene, operating this Zoom thing. So thank you. He's the president of the China ASEAN Legal Cooperation Center. We are holding a series of talk, the COVID-19 series, a law series, where we share the experiences and the situation on the ground with the legal practitioners, lawyers, legal experts around the world. So this is also another way of us saying hello to our old friends and new friends. Because of COVID-19, we are pushed and to adapt this new technology, and we find that with this, it's pretty awesome that we are able to chat with our friends through this, and also sharing with a lot of viewers online. Thank you for those who are following us from day one. So it's really a marathon. We thought we were going to do 10 episodes, but as we go, then I think we are more and more interesting people comes on board. So thank you. I wish everybody have a good evening. Stay safe, and for those in the UK, I think it's good afternoon, right? This is
Good afternoon. Yes.
Yeah, it's noon time now. All right. So everybody stay safe. So we are signing off for today's discussion. Thank you and stay safe. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Okay.